Good morning. I wish to welcome everyone to our panel discussion at the Adult River 4th Annual River Conference, and thank you all for being here. I will introduce everyone briefly, just so that we know who we are and the contributions that we can expect. On my far right, we have Ms. Daphne Paris. She's the Education Officer of the Cashew Gardens Community Council, which is active in the management of the environment, including through recycling and farming projects. Ms. Paris holds a degree in Latin American Studies. Welcome. To her right, we have Mr. Juan Andrade. Mr. Andrade is director of the Flying Tree Environmental Management Organization, which conducts aerial reforestation programs utilizing paragliders, kites, as well as paddle boats and kayaks. Mr. Andrade is an aeronautical engineer by profession. Welcome. Next to him, we have Ms. Shan Coffey Young. Ms. Coffey Young has been involved in waste and environmental management for over 15 years, with experience in environmental management systems and environmental education. Ms. Coffey Young holds a master's degree in environmental engineering and is the CEO and founder of a social enterprise called CL Environmental, whose work focuses on waste education and waste reduction training. Welcome. Next, we have Mr. Denny Dipchan Singh. Mr. Dipchan Singh holds a master's degree in crop management and is currently serving as the Conservator of Forests at the Forestry Division of the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. Mr. Dipchan Singh has over 20 years experience in forest management and shares his knowledge in forest resources management and watershed management as a part-time lecturer at the University of the West Indies. Mr. Dipchan Singh is also a member of the Adopt a River Program Steering Committee. We also have Dr. Angel Bullard Roberts, who is an assistant professor of biology at the University of the Southern Caribbean, where she lectures in courses focused on environment and plants. Dr. Bullard has a Master's of Science degree in Environmental Studies and a PhD in biology. Welcome. Also from the University of the Southern Caribbean is Dr. Dave Cassie. Dr. Cassie is the former chair of the Department of Chemical and Physical Sciences of the School of Sciences, Technology, and Allied Health at the University of the Southern Caribbean. Dr. Cassie holds a PhD in educational leadership and higher education and has a keen interest in the advancement of online learning. A special welcome on today, March 22nd, World Water Day. The theme for this year's World Water Day is Valuing Water, which poses the question, how valuable is water? How valuable is it to the economy, to the environment, and to society? If we can ask ourselves that question, what do you see as the value of water, and how valuable is it to you or your organization? We can start with Ms. Paris.
Without food, without water is a challenge to go that long, right? And for our community, this is even more important because we are close to the Kapara River, which is one of our protected watersheds, right? And we see it as our responsibility to maintain the cleanliness of the water. And in that regard, we have partnered with the Adopt a River program, where we do water quality testing, and those testing is conducted by the youth of our community, and the data is forwarded to the Adopt a River program, where they will analyze the data. So in that way, we see what we have recognized from that, it's heavily polluted. So with monitoring the water, we'll know at what time the pollution increases or decreases.
Water is the beginning of the life. Water is the most important element. This is very important for our planet, and it's so important that actually we just have two of our biggest superpowers as United States and now Japan or China. China actually landed some equipment after 3 years of travel to Mars just in order to find water in another planet. It's so important that we was happy a couple of days back when they believed that in the other side of the moon they found some swamp. It's so important that make we realize that we thought that we are nobody and we will not exist, and that is why these guys actually are able to travel into the interspace so long just to find it. You can get your conclusions from there.
I remember being asked a question by a friend, Sean, if you prefer no water, no lights, which one would you pick? I said, well, no lights, yes, because we can't live without water. And for me in my work at SIL, now as a waste educator, is to ensure that we do not allow our land-based sources of waste to contaminate our water sources. And that is extremely important to the work that we do at SIL. And we continue to encourage people, to encourage children, adults, businesses, organizations, to manage their waste better so that it does not affect our precious water resources.
Right. Morning, colleagues. Well, forestry and water resources go hand in hand. And actually, the day before World Water Day, which is March 21st, is recognized as International Day of Forests as well. So both things go hand in hand, forests and water. And forestry is responsible for management of the state's watersheds as well. And this is the resource that we use to channel these waters into our dams and refill our aquifers. So water indeed is the sustainer of life and really works hand in hand with forestry.
Good morning, everyone. So as you know, I am representing the University of the Southern Caribbean, and water for us is a challenge. And that is, like many places in Trinidad and Tobago, our needs exceed the water availability. And so in terms of the value of water, we have gotten to the place where, we have to be purchasing bottled water and that sort of thing because the needs on campus, we don't have sufficient. In the past, we had a water intake, that is a river that flows through the campus, and there was water stored there. But over time, it filled in with sediment. And so now we are at the place where we are going to have to find ways and means to restore that intake so that we can have our water supply renewed.
So, good morning again, colleagues. So just to kind of continue the point that Dr. Roberts is making. So within the macro level, yes, we all have a need for water. Again, from our individual activities, I can say from the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed at night, we interface with this important commodity. And as an educator as well, on the campus, the courses that we teach, whether they be in the science area or as in the general education area, do have an element of reminding students of the value that we place on water as individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cassie spoke about the relevance of the program at USC in terms of teaching your students about the water, managing resources, and so on. Ms. Paris mentioned to us about the work of the Cashew Gardens Community Council and how they are contributing there to managing our water resources and trying to keep them clean. If I can get a bit from the other panelists in terms of how the work that you do, your organization does, how that contributes to water resources management, preservation, conservation, and environment on the whole.
We have created a technology for contributors, so make use of a technology that is called area reforestation. as well as we do land reforestation, we do water reforestation in the case of the mangrove and the wetland. Also, we work with environmental polymer sequestration process, which is the removal of harmful particles from the water systems or the waterway, the way we dispose our polymers into the waterbeds and into the land and how they leach into the waterbeds, etc. We also work a lot in education, aerial environmental educational tours, water educational tours. We work with the schools, we work with the universities, and many other groups. We have our division of environmental machinery creation, where we use a lot of technology there to create new machinery that could be used into the environmental work. When I say environmental work, I generalize environmental work as everything related to environment. Hence, the water is the beginning and the end of all this work. By using reforestation as our main point of work, and the pollution control at the second. The reforestation that we do is in order to ensure that the water system, the water cycle, the water levels happen as the most natural way as they're supposed to have been happening up to now. After the human, which is basically the most important modifier and pollutant of this water system in the planet. After the human has passed through, we're trying to mitigate the damages of this human passing through the water cycle and systems, mainly in Trinidad and Tobago, because we live here and we have our headquarters here, but also we work in other countries as well. So our job is directly mainly to the rehabilitation of the environment, and as a result, the rehabilitation of the natural element cycle, including the water, of course.
And just to add to what Juan said, I actually won a prize to take an aerial tour by him. So I will be taking advantage of that very soon. But just to answer your question as well, so STYLE is predominantly at the core of waste education company. So everything that we do centers around educating people at varying levels. So we have a program for children, program for adults, and a program for businesses and other corporate entities and so on. But everything is centered around managing waste as a resource. And in the management of waste as a resource, therefore we are diverting that waste away from other points of access that it would normally have. One of those may be the rivers, one of those may be the seas. Waste is so pervasive, you'll find it in forests. I'm sure Denny has had to, leave with bags and bags of garbage because people just dumping in the forest, right? So our goal is really to change behavior, shift mindsets as it pertains to waste and how they see waste. And the way that is, because I've heard time and time again, WASA complain about plastic bottles in their intakes and cloth and all of those things. So once we shift the mindset of people to realize it's not just something we throw away anymore. It is a resource, it has value, and it could be put to another use. We then now create cleaner water resources. So that's the link that I would make to what I do and the management of, and the importance of water and the management of water resources.